Hey, what's up, y'all? We tune back in with another episode on talent. Talent stands for take a look inside truth for y'all those that's just tuning in with us and everything. I'm your host KG Lavancy. I got two guests for me right here, Angel and Johnny, which I'm gonna let them introduce themselves or whatever and bring it to us live. The brand of the championship. So we finna take a journey down where that developed and how did they get brought to that and everything like that. So let's get to find out who these guys are and let's hear their stories. So how you guys doing?
I'm doing good today. I feel blessed, thankful to be here.
And you are Johnny for the people.
Yes, yeah, my name is Johnny Ramirez. I'm a motivational speaker, also an entrepreneur. Just grateful to be here today.
All right.
I'm doing great. I'm grateful. I'm alive. I'm here. I have my sanity, you know.
And you
Um,
are?
my name's Angel P for my social media followers,
All right.
and I'm blessed to have this opportunity as well.
That's right. That's right. So you developed a brand called the championship, and I see on your hat it say the champ.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can go, either or. Um, how did you guys, like, you've been doing this for a long time? Like, how did you guys meet? Like, tell me a little bit about you guys' journey or, you know?
Yeah, me and Angel met like I want to say almost 2 years ago. Angel and I clicked right away. I've been doing social media for a very long time since I've been home, and we met at work. We both worked for an organization called Cry Help at the time, and we instantly clicked. Where I was doing social media, he saw that, and Angel was always like into social media. He's good with like technology, basically, and we just honestly just came together, and we just started working as a team. But the championship clothing brand, like that was really something that I created when I was a kid. And it was just an idea and it was a dream for a very long time. I was basically with the championship brands, what it stands for, is just strength and just strength, hope, and resilience, right? But I was a basketball player, and so as a kid, I
Nice.
used to play ball as a kid, and I was very good. I was talented. I was gifted, but just kind of fell into the wrong lifestyle: drugs, alcohol, and gangs. And there went the dream, right? I was that kid that just never really won a championship. I have a long story. Went to prison for 14 years. When I
Wow.
started to change my life in prison, and I just kind of had to do therapy, and I had to like really work on myself, and I had to really go back in time and really like remember like what was like motivating me at that time, like what were my dreams at that time, and I just remember I was just like, yo, like, my dream was to be one of the best basketball players I could ever be. I grew up watching Kobe and Shaq and the Lakers, right? Showtime,
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze and all that, right? Like just I just remember like watching the Lakers, and I just wanted to be a champion. I just wanted to be like Kobe. I wanted to be like Shaq. I just wanted to be someone great. I just remember that, and I was like, man, like what happened to me? How did I get lost in addiction? How did I lose? How did I end up in the penitentiary for 14 years? You know what I
Wait,
mean?
so you said
Yeah.
you kind of like started off young, like as in your teenage years, playing basketball and everything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Probably throughout school and
Yeah.
everything. So like, first off, where are you from?
I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I was born and raised in Canoga Park.
Okay, and so like eventually from you being that athletic kid,
Mm.
it changed over. Like what happened? What?
Oh, I think as a kid, like growing up in that poor community, and stuff happens every single day, in the hood. My father like walked out of my life. Like he just tapped out, walked out on me and my mother when we were like struggling and poor at that time. My mother raised me by herself. She was a heroin addict,
You have
gang.
siblings?
She was a gang member, and I have siblings. Yes, I had two sisters, and I have one brother. My sister just died about, I want to say, 3 years ago from a liver disease. It was right before I came home after my stretch. But I'll take you back in that time. My mother was raising us the best she could. Heroin addict, ex-gang member, uneducated. She didn't even have a high school diploma. But she tried to do the best she could. Long story short, my mother died when I was 12 years old. You know what I mean? From not taking care of herself, doing drugs and alcohol for a very long time, my mother ended up passing away. That kind of just left me in a world where I felt kind of alone. You know what I mean? So when you're alone like that in the hood, you know what I mean, you're easy influence. You're looking for love in all the wrong places. You know what I mean? And
So who raised you?
my grandma stepped in at the time. Yeah, my grandma stepped in. I love that. I love that woman to death. She stepped in and she played my mother for a minute, but there was a lot that I was going through as a young kid. You know, depression, just anxiety, just a lot of pain I didn't know how to cope with. And so, like my grandma, she was a pastor. She helped other people that were struggling with addiction. She was always trying to like help people that were struggling in the hood. She built her own church. So I come from that background. You know what I'm saying? I'm a firm believer in God. But she tried to do the best she could. It's just like I was going through something personally. I was on my own journey, and I
Yeah.
just think she couldn't save me at the time.
With like a kid going through grief and like probably abandonment, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And then trying to figure out your identity, with like who am I, like,
yeah,
at that time, and knowing what brought you so much joy, like playing basketball or whatever, else that you were into, to like now have to figure out this new world, you know
yeah,
what I'm saying? And I know a lot of people be like, yeah, but you grow up and you get past that. But I always tell people like, nah, you got to deal with that someday.
yeah, for
You know what
sure.
I'm saying? Or you're just a little boy in a grown man body.
Absolutely, and that's the truth. You know what I mean? Like, in my point when I was in prison, I'd like to share the opportunity how I got to prison. Just alcohol and drugs destroyed my life. Like, and I can honestly say that it destroyed my life. It almost murdered me. Right, that lifestyle almost murdered me. Almost put me in a box. I just made so many terrible decisions. And but when I got to prison, um, I got to prison because I robbed two innocent people by the name of Kerry Ryle, Daniel Benitez, right?
Why you
The,
say you did what?
I robbed two innocent people at the age of 20 years old.
Okay.
I mean, I was lost in my addiction. I already hit rock bottom. So I robbed two innocent people by the name of Kerry Ryle, Daniel Benitez,
Okay.
right? At gunpoint, I took their money, I took their merchandise, I took whatever they had on them, and I got away with it. And honestly, I think just for like everything that I was going through in that moment, just being at my lowest, something just like kind of like woke up in me, and I just for the first time in my life, I felt wrong for what I did, and I had a real moment where I was like, yo, this ain't you. Like, is this you? Like, this is who you want to be? Like, you want to be scandalous? You want to rob people? You want to take people's hard, earn like money from them? Right? Like, you're better than this. You know what I mean? And I just remember in that moment, like I said, my grandma raised me. After my mother died, and she was a woman of principle, right? A God fearing woman, and she just always used to tell me, she's like, look, Johnny, uh, the most important thing you could always do in life is help people, right? And always do the right thing. Always do the right thing. And that always like was like deep down in my roots, right? And in that moment, like I said, like something woke up in me, and I believe it was that. I could hear my grandmother's voice, or I could hear God's voice just saying, do the right thing. And so in that moment, I'm just like, yo, like I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And like I said, I got away with the crime. I'm going through this like experience where, life is like hitting me, right? And I'm trying to get back to me. Um, and I just remember, do the right thing, do the right thing, do the right thing. And I just remember, like, no lie, like, I lie to you not, like, no cap. I was standing right there, and there's a police station right there in front of me. And I'm just like, yo, like, okay. Like, it just made clear sense. It made clear sense to me. And so I walk into that police station, right? And I see the receptionist, and I see the lieutenant there. And they happen to be right there at that moment. And I just say, like, my name is Johnny Ramirez. I tell them at the time. And I committed a crime. And they both looked at me stunned, like shocked. And I look like a kid, let me remind you, right? I look like a kid. I'm 20 years old, young man. And I just like, look, I'm here to take full responsibility for my crime. They look puzzled, like they it wasn't registering to them, right? Like they never seen anything like this. And they explained to me that they never experienced something like this. So as we're talking, he's like, look, I'm trying to understand, like, what do you mean? that you're here to take responsibility. What do you mean, like, you're here to do the right thing? And I'm just like, look, I'm figuring that out as I'm here with you guys, I just know that I'm just here trying to do the right thing. So they took me back into the police station, and the lieutenant sits down with me, and he's like, look, what does that mean, you're trying to do the right thing? And I was just like, look, sir, like, I'm trying to figure that out. All I know is my grandma raised me to do the right thing, and I've been lost for a long time, and I've been doing the wrong things for a long time, and I haven't been myself for a long time. And right now, this is the first time in my life that I'm just trying to get back to being me. And he's like, look, man, I just want to commend you for what you're doing. I think this is courageous. I think this is like real integrity right here, what you're doing. I just want to commend you, man. You're a young man and you're doing the right thing. Out of all the years I've worked in this department, I worked as a sheriff, right? I never seen anything like this, man. And I just want to prepare you for what's about to happen next. You know what I mean? I know you're very young and you're about to go to prison for a very long time.
Probably. So by this time you told them what happened?
Yeah. And after that, they handcuffed me, they booked me in, put me in a holding tank, and I began fighting this case. Yeah.
And that was at what age?
20 years old.
20.
So, the case begins, I mean, there was just so much stuff going on, I didn't really realize that, like what I did was going to send me to prison for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I started fighting a life sentence at age 20 years old. And long story short, I don't want to waste anyone's time here on that. I ended up signing a deal for 17 years. Right? I ended up signing a deal for 17 years, and that was the hardest thing that I had to do, because I came in doing the right thing, and I knew I was going to go to prison, right? I knew without a doubt. I wasn't running from that. I was there to take responsibility. But in that journey, everything that I went through was just a lot of unfairness by the system. You know what I mean? I don't believe that I deserved to go to prison for 17 years. I believe that I deserved to go to prison. But I come from a time where...
Even when you basically confessed.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So that's one thing, that's the reason why I say that, right? It's like, okay, here you have a person, here you have a young man coming forward, right? Even though he made a terrible decision, right? Even though he broke the law, but here he is walking into the police station, taking full responsibility, doing the right thing, and you step into the courtroom and everything is about facts, right? That's one fact that they did not acknowledge. They just wanted their conviction. They just wanted to send a young man to prison for a very long time. And they used me as an example.
And now that make you think of why people don't do the right thing when it comes to the justice system, because you are fearful of the consequence behind, be honest or be a good person, and it's like, in my heart I want to do the right thing, such as you've done, but the consequence of what you guys have to stand on will be to use me as an example. And
yeah, absolutely.
Damn.
And so I signed a deal for 17 years. I had a public defender by the name of Hong Du. He was a rookie at his time. Me and him didn't click in the beginning because of the numbers and everything that was happening at that time. He was trying to make a name for himself. I was fighting for my freedom. I was trying to get back home, and it was just a situation where, like, we were getting to know each other or something like that, I want to say. But we were bumping heads because of the numbers, right? We're talking about a life sentence. We're talking about 100 years. We're talking about 50 years. You get what I'm saying? And those numbers, you just can't have a good conversation with somebody, right? I guess he wanted my best interest. Like I said, he was a rookie at the time. He comes to me, and I was able to share all the facts. He was able to learn about me in a 2-year journey of coming in and out of court, right? Us talking behind the scenes before we go into court.
Yeah.
So we had to establish a relationship, and he's like, look, I got a deal for you. It's 17 years. I was like, bro, are you crazy? 17 years? Like, I'll be 30-something years old when I'll be an old man. Life will be over.
Yeah.
But that's me thinking as a 20-year-old kid, right? But little did I know that he was talking to my grandma behind the scenes. And my grandma was just like, look, I just don't want him to go to prison for the rest of his life. He's a good kid. He's just been through a lot. So they were working on trying to get me a deal. The deal ended up being 17, and I just remember when he put that deal in front of me, I couldn't accept it. You know, I mean, I told him this. I was like, look, I did the right thing. I took responsibility for this crime. I'm here. I'm not running from nothing. Right? I was like, this is outrageous. You think this is a deal? You go do 17. You tell me how that feels. Right?
Was this your first time?
This was I was in and out of the system as a juvenile. Right? I'm talking about camp. I'm talking about placement. I'm talking about being in Silmar Juvenile Hall. I was basically raised in the system.
So, but would you say, because this would have been like your first
This is my
felon?
first. This is my first offense as an adult. Yes.
As an adult?
As an adult.
Okay. So, did your priors have anything to do with any of this?
In a way, they did, right? Because when you're in court, they're trying to paint this picture of you.
That's what I'm saying.
You're trying to paint this picture of you, right? And so I remember when we're begging for we're asking, not begging, but we're asking for a lesser sentence, right? And the DA's job is to make you look like the criminal you are. The DA's job is to make you look like a monster, right? The threat to society, right? And they're like, Your Honor, how could we let this young man get a lesser deal or lesser time, right? This young man has always been a threat to society. He has sold drugs. He has had fire weapons on him. He has assaulted people, right? He has been breaking the law since he's been a young man, a young kid, right? So we give him a lesser deal, right? We let him walk away a couple years, right?
He gonna go back doing the same thing.
He's gonna go back doing the same thing.
Or
And
worse.
he may even murder somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I said, he showed me the deal. And I told him at this point in time, you know, what you guys are doing to me is wrong. I'm going to be real with you. I don't know where I found all this passion, this courage at 20 years old. But I believe, you know, I was meant to go through all this because this was going to help me become who I needed to become. And I told him, look, what you guys are doing to me is wrong. What this district is doing to me is wrong. You know, what the judge is doing to me is wrong. What the DA is doing to me is wrong. You guys are sending a young man that did the right thing to prison for the rest of his life. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm only going to sign this deal today, not for you, not for this district, not for the judge, not for the DA. I'm signing this deal for my grandmother. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason I'm signing this deal. And I want to let you know, when I sign this deal, I promise you this. I promise you. I said this with conviction at the time because I was going through a lot emotionally, but I knew it in my heart. I told him, look, I'm going to sign this deal for 17 years. And I promise you, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. God's going to make this right. I'm coming back to this courtroom, and I'm going to prove all you guys wrong. What you guys did to me today, that'll be on you guys. Long story short, I ended up doing 14 years out of a 17-year sentence. Mm-hmm. I educated myself while I was in prison. You know what I mean? I think I had enough time to really learn about myself. And I think sometimes when we come from poor communities, we really don't see how messed up we are, how broken we are, right?
It start to feel like the norm, a lot of things.
Right, and so when I got in that yard, I started to realize how uneducated I was, from the way I spoke to the way I thought, even to the way I walked. Mm-hmm. Right? I just knew, like, the streets messed me up. I could barely read. I could barely write. I barely have my own views. I don't even know my values. I don't even know my principles. I don't even know who I am as a man. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that was a learning lesson for me. I felt ignorant, as a young man in the penitentiary. And I also started to see the other side of America. You know what I mean? Like, we talk about the American dream, work hard. You could have your dreams if, you follow your heart, you do the right things. But I also saw the other side of it too, the other side of the game, where it's like when you make terrible choices and you don't believe in yourself and you don't love yourself, right? Oh, you go into no man's land. You go into hell. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're gonna go into devil's playground.
Yeah, since you want to be the devil's advocate.
Yeah, for sure.
Where'd you do your time at?
I did my time everywhere. When I first got there, I didn't know, what I was really like getting into. And I knew it was serious because when you commit a crime like I committed, right? That's a serious crime. You know what I mean? And that crime comes with a lot of points, right? That's how the system is. They categorize your crime, and there's certain points. You know what I mean? That's how they know how to place you once you get to prison, right? So my crime was so serious that I had a lot of points. So when I got there and I landed, it was a high security prison. It's a 180 prison.
Where was it?
Kern Valley State Prison.
Okay.
That was my first prison I went to, and then I just was transferred to like Centinela State Prison, Ironwood State Prison, Pleasant Valley. You know what I mean? I was up north, down south. You know what I mean? And it was definitely a journey that I had to go through, and I just took that time to really, like I said, educate myself, learn about myself. I think the breaking point and the turning point for me was when I had to confront myself. You know what I mean? Like, look, you're here because you did the right thing. Good job, bro. But you're really here because you don't know how to make good decisions for yourself.
Straight up, yeah.
Right? You're here because you're lying to yourself. You're here because you're playing yourself every single day. You're here because you're your own worst enemy. And I think that hurt. That hurt. I had to accept that truth. That hurt. And I couldn't feel sorry for myself anymore. And I was like, okay, it's time to get to work. It's time to get to what do we do with this time now, right? What do we do on this journey now, right? How are you going to keep yourself accountable? What are you going to own? You need to stop blaming people. You need to start blaming yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just remember I was like, okay, I remember like the initial thought was like, okay, let's get to work. Let's start educating ourselves. Let's start changing my thoughts. Let's start changing these behaviors. Let's start changing these beliefs. And let's really become the person that we need to become. So I started reading books like crazy. I started reading like Malcolm X. I started reading Martin Luther King. I started reading Gandhi, Che Guevara. And I think that was a powerful moment for me because, all I ever believed was in selling drugs. You know what I mean? All I ever believed in was just like hustling. All I ever believed was just like in the block and the hood and the homies, you know what I mean? And it was a very important lesson that I learned that about myself, that I was thinking basic. I was thinking basic. I never wanted anything more than these basic things. And so when I started reading about like Malcolm, and he's talking about a dream, and I started reading, learning about Martin when he's talking about a dream. I started learning about Malcolm, and he's talking about educating yourself, right? That was something I have never heard before, honestly, I mean, especially in the hood. And so I'm having the time to really like process that. And I was like, yo, like, what's my dream? You know what I mean? Like, what does my dream look like, And when Malcolm was like, his message was like education, you know what I mean? I was like, yo, like, where's my education at? You know what I mean? Does that something I value? You know what I mean? What's this dream? Do I believe in this dream? And it was just also being a leader for a long time. I was a follower, man. I was following the new trend. I was following the new drugs. I was following women. I was following the homies. I was a follower. You know what I mean? I was never myself. And I was like, you know what? That ends today. Today I become who I need to become. And for a long time, I didn't want to become who I wanted to be because I always thought if I was me, I was a lot like my father. And that's what I didn't want to be. And so that's why I ran to the hood, and that's why I ran to bad influences, and that's why I got lost in a lot of the lifestyle I was stuck in.
Where were you from?
Like gang? You talk about gang? I grew up in Canoga Park, Alabama Street. Okay. Yeah, I grew up in that hood.
So at what point, well, I know you guys said, I know you was talking about how you guys met.
No.
Did you meet him like in a pen or?
No, I actually met Johnny at this organization, right, called Cry Help, through a mutual friend as well. And the journey was, I was trying to do the social media thing, right, but I didn't really have the drive in me, right? And my boy's like, yo, like, I know somebody, and he had showed me his videos, and it was just God, right? Like, that's what I could say, it was God, right? I ended up working at Meet 'em. He had the drive, he has that fire in him. I was still kind of lacking. And basically, Johnny just mentioned he did like 14 years being busted, right? My journey wasn't the same. I did like 19, 18 years in addiction, right? Since I was in 6th grade, I've been addicted to alcohol, coke, Nas, like anything you can name. I was putting in my body because I wanted to fill a void, right? I really didn't like myself. Um, Growing up, like I knew who my biological father was, and then I had the man who I call my dad today. But since I was young, like I knew that wasn't my biological dad, right? So it led me to addiction at a very young age. You know, it led me to find something to get me outside of myself. You know, and so growing up is like I was growing up in a neighborhood, right? Like I grew up in Pacoima, and like my uncles were affiliated, my aunt was affiliated, so that was the norm to me. People getting and using drugs or like drinking alcohol was the norm to me, so I didn't think anything of it. Like for me, it was like this is what it is, you know, and that led to harder drugs, right down the path. You know, it led me not having a father and like knowing who my real father is and who my stepdad was, right? um feel like I didn't have nobody, right? I grew up in a trailer. I didn't have a room till like I was 18, you know? And I just fucking hated myself. I didn't really know who I was. I lacked guidance. So I went through different phases in my life trying to find out who I was. Like I played sports, I boxed, you know. I never made it to juvenile hall, but I ended up being part of a gang too. You know, like I got jumped into a gang because like, well, my family's from a gang. Why not should I be from a gang, right?
Yeah.
And it was just me looking where I fit in.
For that validation.
Yeah, like for validation, you know. And you know, once I got into like 9th grade, I got introduced to meth, and from there it was just takeoff. You know, like that got me outside of myself. You know, started robbing people. You know, womanizer. Like I used to like love having a bunch of women, and I used to use with my aunt that passed away. You know, a couple of years ago, and that was like my road dog. And you know, so this whole journey of mine has just been, it's been a downhill battle. You know, like while Johnny was in prison, I was out here in the streets, and the things that I said I wasn't gonna do, I ended up becoming and doing. You know, because I remember being young and seeing people out in the streets or people talking to themselves
Yeah.
and saying like, that's not gonna be me, right? But that's always my mentality, like it's not gonna be me.
As if you place yourself like, I'm better than that.
Yeah, you
I'm
know.
gonna get high, I'm gonna get that high.
Yeah,
Like,
you
that
know,
type
but
of
then
thing.
that ended up becoming me.
Yeah.
Like I started talking to myself. I went into a state of psychosis. I've been in the mental hospital. I've been in the county jail a few times, right? Like I've never done a stretch like Johnny, but I've been in the county jail, you know, and that ended up becoming me, you know, and that's one part that like sometimes hurts me. Is like, damn, like I didn't think I could go that low, you know, like I was sleeping out of my car. I was hanging out with the people in the RVs that you see parked outside of the streets. I was hanging out with people in the tents. You know, like I had a home to go to, but it just didn't feel like home.
So I know you said earlier, like, you stayed clean for a minute, and then you basically relapsed.
Yeah.
Right? So tell me about that.
So I've been in and out of the rooms, right, of the fellowship that I do since 2020. I was at the time never able to get more than 6 months clean, and you know, and this just recently, like I was able to build up 28 months.
Okay.
You know, it's a little bit past 2 years, and you know, like right now I got 7 days
Clean?
clean.
So you relapsed.
Yeah, so I relapsed, right, and that's a hard pill to swallow, knowing that I threw 28 months down the drain.
Well, what happened?
So what happened is I started taking my will back, right? I stopped letting go, and you know, like, because obviously the fellowship that I attend, they talk about getting in contact with God, right? Living in God's will.
Okay.
But when angel takes the wheel, it's all bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I started taking my will back. I started isolating. I stopped reaching out to people. You know, I started bottling everything up. And when the moment came, you know, like I didn't reach out to no one. You know what I mean? Like it just became easy for me to do what I always do when I feel like I'm under pressure. And I ended up using.
Like as if I can go out there, I can get back into it and I can stop because I've done it before. So you didn't rely on, or probably feeling like even telling somebody I'm in that weekend moment would say that I'm too weak, that I just couldn't get past, and you wanted to see how far you can get on your own.
Yeah, definitely, and that's the thing, right? Like struggling with addiction is like no matter how much time you have under your belt, we're all vulnerable to this, right? Because when we feel like we got this, we really don't.
So how do you feel like knowing 28 months is a long time? That's over a year. Consider have been doing this for many years. That's a long time to have backed off and gave yourself a chance. To now saying like I fell back into it. Like, how do you feel? Like, what type of feelings that moment right there, feeling like I fell short or whatever it is. Like, what do you?
There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of embarrassment. I feel like I let people down. Because believe it or not, like a lot of us sometimes don't think that we have people looking up to us, and in reality we do. Whether it's someone older than you or someone younger than you, but they're seeing what you do, right? So not only did I let myself down, but I let other people down, right? So all those emotions that came with it, like I recently was talking to Johnny on the way over here, and I was like, I started getting in a little funk. Like I kind of wasn't feeling myself, and I was going down that little rabbit hole, but I know where it leads. Like if I would have kept myself down, like and just like in that little depression mode, like I would have stayed down there and I would have continued to use, but it's really up to me to get myself up out of there.
So like, what is it though? Because when you find yourself going from a clean 28-month back to now claiming 7 days, you have to recognize and look in the mirror that in between time. You know what I'm saying? What happened? What was the self-talk? What was the actions? Was the day events? What happened in between that said it's even bringing back that like the eagerness to even want to? Like, what happened between there?
So in those moments, like I had to take some time to reflect on my actions, right? What did I do to fall short? And then, obviously, what happened was just remembering how bad it got, right? Because I mentioned, like, I've been in mental institutions. I was in a state of psychosis, right? And it's easy to forget how bad it gets because I'm not there yet right now, and it didn't happen when I went out recently, but doesn't mean I can't get there again. I had to remember me losing my mind, me talking to myself, me being suicidal, and I ended up hanging myself in my room. Like, that's where my addiction takes me. I lose my sanity. And on the way over here, like I was going to mention earlier, like I started, for some reason, like God came to my mind, how God has been working in my life, and like right now I could easily be someone that you see on the side of the streets talking to themselves because I was there. Like right now I could have easily been doing a life sentence in prison because of the way my state of psychosis was. Like I wanted to hurt people, and not only people but myself, and I got to remember all of that, because for a long time I had a resentment towards God because my family would be like, this is a punishing God or this and that, right? And right now, like, in reality, is like I should be grateful that I got a God working in my life.
Yeah.
Because I got my sanity. The day that I hung myself in my room when I was in that deep depression, for some reason I landed on my toes with the noose around my neck. And I remember I had a big mirror in my room at the time. And I remember my body weight just kind of shifted me, right? And I remember seeing myself in the mirror. And I remember saying, like, in my mind, like, my mom doesn't deserve this, And sometimes I felt like I was living without a purpose, but in reality, there is a purpose for me here. There's a purpose for everyone here. We just have to tap into it and what it is.
Yeah. I think that you maybe, and this is without judgment, this is just, sometimes I believe the negative aspects or the negative person, because I believe in our own individual selves, we are multiple people. You know what I'm saying? And when I say, like, you ever find yourself, like, could be this real ugly person or this real high uplifted person, which means like an angel, devil, or you know how they use it in that aspect. So that's why I say that, right? when you are going on to become your greater self, or to become, all right, I'm gonna be a follower and Jesus Christ and God, you notice that a certain hand get placed on your shoulders and it's steady trying to pull you back and to remembering certain things that you want to forget, or feeling like I didn't got past that, or I'm trying to do better. Like, why you want to keep me here as if that was a good feeling for me and it wasn't, right? And it's like having demons on your back.
Yeah.
And so I think at those moments may be the moments where you have to pray harder. That's why I was asking you in that in between time, what is it? Because whether 28 months to 7 days, that in between time, even if it's 1 minute, it's like if you don't recognize what happens when it happen again, because it will.
Yeah.
That's the thing, it will. But if you don't know what to do, you're gonna be saying, now I'm 2 days, now I'm and it's like it's good. I mean, because life goes on. You can try for the rest of your life, but one day when your life end, it's like, did I try enough? It's like, how much are we going to try till we just say, I surrender and I give it up? You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
I feel that it's okay to be embarrassed. I think that embarrassment carries us. I feel like shame carries us. You know what I'm saying? Having to say, well, I'm not going to make the best decisions for myself. But if I say that, if those people that look up to me, whether it's our kids, our family, friends we met, or whatever, and they just, when they met you, they seen something highly in you that you ain't even see in yourself. You know what I'm saying? If that's what makes you make a better decision, run with it.
Yeah. And
you know?
Definitely. And like in that between time that you were talking about, right? Like, one thing I did notice towards like the end, before I ended up relapsing, is I stopped surrendering. And that was the key word that you used right now, right? So in this between time, like me talking to my sponsor, he's like, Angel, he's like, you just got to surrender, you know? And I know there's a really good friend of mine who's in the program who recently used that word surrender. And he's like, look, he's like, surrender doesn't mean giving up, right? It means you're joining the winning team.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes my pride and my ego and my machismo ways don't allow me to ask for help, right? And as a man, like, I came up with this analogy a long time ago, right? There's certain materials on this earth that could kill us, right? Whether it's metal, rock, wood, right? Like, these three things are way harder than me. When I mean, like, material-wise, I'm flesh and bone, right? Any of these three things could be made into a weapon, and they can puncture us, and they could kill us. And sometimes growing up in a machismo way, we're taught that we have to be tougher than that, right? We can't show emotions. We can't break. We don't ask for help. But the three things I just mentioned have one thing in common. Under a certain amount of pressure or under a certain amount of heat, they break. So that was insane for me to realize, like, damn, like, so I'm taught to be stronger than steel. I'm taught to be stronger than a rock. I'm taught to be stronger than wood. You know, like, but, like, and that's a hard pill to swallow, you know. And just yesterday I was having a conversation with a friend where it's like, I don't know how to process my emotions sometimes, because she kept asking me, like, what's wrong? And I was like, I don't know, you know, like, everything that I feel sometimes I turn it into a secondary emotion, which becomes anger. And that's how I've been running most of my life, not knowing how to identify what I feel.
Yeah. I think at those moments it's important that if you, like, let's say you're just walking down the street, right? Or you guys are, like you said, on your way over here. I'm going to use that as it's more recent. On your way over here, you were having a conversation. You find yourself, you said, going back. And it's like, I could have sat in that, like a depression. Like, I was just not feeling it. Like, today's just not my day. And I could either sit in feeling like I'll try again tomorrow, or I can climb up out of that. You know what I'm saying? At those moments, it's important for us to sometimes, even if you don't talk to somebody, thank God you did have him. I don't know what his response was, but it was good enough that you felt open enough to just tell somebody other than your own self. You know what I'm saying? And to be able to get that out, you know, because most people, we get so comfortable when that wall go up, we use it and we be like, oh, it's good. I didn't let that seep out. When really we affect ourselves on the inside so much more when we hold it in, because it's like, then that build up, it's like a cup. You know what I'm saying? You put so much water in, what's gonna happen? It's gonna spill over eventually. So I don't feel I don't want to be made to feel like I'm weaker because I decided to vent to somebody.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know what I'm saying, it can be depending on how that person chooses to use that information, you know. But like, in a sense, I truly want you to allow God, like, in your circle. Hopefully, you know, you have a praying team that's with you right there in those moments, because you battling something, like I said, like, it is real when we feel like we have those demons on our back. You know, it's not the call you want. It's just saying that we are being under attack because you are trying to become, you're trying to overcome that. And the devil is like, who are you?
Yeah.
So who are you to leave this team when you've been fighting with right here for so long, and you think you're gonna do better, knowing your weakness. Sometimes we don't even know our own weakness, but he knows.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't remember what I actually told Angel, but I just know something from my heart, from what I learned. You know what I mean? Like, I already broke it down to you guys. You know, I was a young man just trying to do the right thing, and I found myself, you know, like, for a very long time, you know, like questioning God. You know what I mean? Like, questioning God. You know, when things are going good, right? Things are going good. Everything is working out for you, right? You got no complaints. You're like, thank God, you know, amen. You know what I mean? It's all good. You got a great relationship with God. But when things take a turn, you know what I mean? When adversity comes, misfortune comes, when the challenges come, when the pressures come, right? What's your relationship with God?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're so easy to be like, God, why are you doing this to me? Why are you taking this from me, right? Why am I feeling like this, right? When everything's supposed to be going perfect, I'm doing the right thing. I did the right thing. I'm working 8 hours a day, right? I'm going back to school. I'm raising my kids, right? God, why are you doing this to me? I'm a good human being. You know what I mean? I pay my taxes, right? You know what I mean? I help people out. But why is adversity happening to me, right? And we forget that this is life. Nowhere in the Bible, nowhere in literature says that life is going to be perfect. Life is going to be life, and you better be ready for it. But you better have that strong relationship with God. I know this. I know when the dark times come. I know when attacks come. I know that ain't God. I know that's the devil.
Maybe.
I like
Think
that he
about-
mentions that, right? Like, so the last time before I got clean, this time around, prior, like before the 28 months build up, I remember just being in that dark place where I couldn't stop using for the best of me, right? Like, it was just like smoking a cigarette. I was smoking it every 20 minutes. I needed it to wake up. I needed it to go to work. I needed it for everything. I depended on it heavily. And towards the end of it, I remember just using it in my room, and like, I did have resentment towards God, but I remember praying, saying, like, get me up out of this.
That's
Right? And that's another thing, right? Like, some of us on our downest, on our lowest moments, we pray for God to get us out of it, right? And for me, it was the opposite. Like, once things got good, I forgot about God. I forgot to get in contact with that higher power. I forgot to pray, you know?
Yeah.
I started not becoming grateful. I started looking at all the bad things instead of all the good things that I got blessed with.
Real quick, we're gonna have to exit out, but I want you guys to remember Job, and this is what I say sometimes, and not in a bad way, but I don't know if you guys ever read the story about Job in the Bible.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so when Job was going through everything, remind you, he was like God knew he would survive all things because of how much faith and love he had for him, right? And so he allowed Lucifer, the serpent, to test him and to test his faith. So he allowed everything to be taken from him. And that's why I say sometimes, because not saying that God has done it, but he will allow things. And when we don't recognize sometimes the things that we go through is only a test on our faith, then we'll say, I'm doing everything. What do you want me to do? And I also want you guys to remember, because you follow God or you follow Christ, each and every one of those disciples died a horrible death. So it's life, but it's also as in choosing a side, because the worldly living that we live in, it's not always going to be pretty, but we are promised eternal life. So you have to think about the now versus the then. Like, am I going to want the pretty now and then face the ugly then, or I'm going to face the ugly now and then You know what I'm saying? And most people don't want to look at it like that because it's a spiritual warfare, and they feel like we are more pleased within the world and what the world thinks and what social media says we should be and how they feel like everything, you know what I'm saying, should look. And it's not going to be that. You ain't going to be light. People ain't going to care about you. You're going to fall short a lot. You know what I'm saying? And you're not going to be the number one pick. But in God's eyes, in Jesus' eyes, where will you stand? Is that at the end of the day. And so we just got to remember that, you know what I'm saying? Even when we're going through hard times, is to say, like, Jesus did it. Who are we? We ain't even close.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We ain't even close. So sometimes, like, you know what? God, if you, they say that God, he will not put more on you than we can bear. And it's just like, so you mean to tell me I'm going through this, and instead of why me, it's like, evidently you think I'm stronger than what I think. And no, I don't want to go through this. Hell no. No, I don't appreciate the test. No, I ain't thankful. But I am happy that in your eyes you see me better than I can even visualize myself. I don't even know what I look like.
And the reason I know we got to wrap up. The reason I said that I use myself as an example. I know when I was lost. I know when I was broken. I know when I was hopeless. I know when I was living in misery. I knew the devil wasn't worrying about me because he already had me. But now that I changed my life around, right now that I'm focused more than ever and I'm hungry more than ever, and I got God in my heart. The devil coming for me because he don't want me to become who God has planned for me to become.
Yeah.
That's why I said it like that.
Yeah. Hey, man, that give me chills right now. No, for real, because it's true. They say that don't nobody break into empty houses. You got something. You know what I'm saying? Like, God gonna bless you guys on your journey, on your way, and to continue to doing what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, real quick, I want you guys, I'm gonna give you a second. Show me your brand and you know, everything. So
for sure, ahead. Yeah. This is a championship brand right here, right? These are our black hoodies right here, right? Okay. These are like these are our best sellers right here. Okay. Everyone loves these, right? You have the championship logo on every sweater, right? The message to everyone, right? This stands for strength, hope, and resiliency, right? Okay. That you could overcome anything. You could be anybody you want to be, as long as you have the hope, you have the vision, you have the focusedness, right? You have the strength, right? And on every sweater, right, we have anything is possible on every sweater. Anything is possible, right? Because everything, man, everything that you do in life, you have to have a belief. You got to ask yourself a belief. And for me personally and for us as a brand, that belief is anything is possible. We're in the trenches and we're believing anything is possible. We're in the hood and we're believing anything is possible, right? We're in hard times and we're believing anything is possible. We're in a moment in our lives that we're moving and representing this brand and promoting this brand and putting everything we got in this brand, believing anything is possible.
That's right.
Right? With just hard work and dedication and just showing up every single day and fighting for what you believe in every single day and really being that champion that you deserve to be, right? And having the life that you rightfully deserve and having that championship moment that I never got, that you never got, and that he never got, or that person that's in the hood that is dreaming about and they're wishing for and they're working very hard for, or maybe they never got. But with the hard work and just a reminder of this clothing brand, they can have it. They can achieve it as long as they see it every single day.
That's right. And, hey, y'all heard it here best, you know what I'm saying, from Angel and Johnny. Man, we entering the championship. I guess
that's for you right there.
Can I give one last message?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to anybody out there struggling with addiction, right? If you have never been into a fellowship, if you've never gotten into treatment, it takes strength and courage to do that. You know what I mean? It takes a little bit more strength out of you to say, I need help. And if anybody's out there who's relapsed and is ashamed to come back, there's no shame in the relapse. There's shame in not coming back. There's shame in not showing up, right? And for me right now, it's like I'm going through it. You see me, and I'm still here. I'm present. I'm fighting, and I'm making the effort to get to where I want to be. Yeah. You know, and I'm not where I want to be.
But you on your way.
But I'm on my way. Yeah. You know, and like the clothing brand, right? Like even if it says championship, doesn't necessarily mean a trophy, right? I just want to be a champion. I just want to win, right? Like, and if I never gave myself that opportunity, how am I going to know how far I could take it if I never even made that right choice?
Yeah, you got it.
Absolutely.
You got it.
I just want to say one thing before we leave. Like, you know, like people look at me and you might have this assumption of who I am. You may even think you know what I've gone through, but Yeah, I've gone through hell, but I'm gonna tell you this: I've worked
Yeah.
very hard for the last 15 years to be where I am at today.
Yeah.
Right? And if you think your life is over, you think you're finished, I want to tell you it's not. I want to tell you it's not. I'm gonna tell you could come back, and that you have comeback power. You just got to believe anything is possible.
Straight up.
With all God, everything's possible.
Anything
Right?
is possible.
Right.
Hey, y'all, we here.
Mhm.
You tuned in to Talent. Again, talent stands for take a look inside truth. We here with the champions. You know what I'm saying? Celebrating championships because they coming. They on their way. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to claim it right here in advance. God, we give you all the praise. We give you all the glory from here and going out and everything and every step that we take. I ask that you bless our path. I ask that you open doors, and I just ask that you bring us into people's path and us into others' paths that maybe we can help. It's a big lining of you lining up your soldiers to do your will, your work, and I just pray that in Jesus' name that you continue to use us as your vessels. God bless.
Amen. Amen.
All right, y'all.
Amen.